Today, it's something different. It's closer to home. It is actually in your home. So we have got Greener and Cleaner, who are coming here tonight, an incredibly inspiring charity. They take everything we do in our home and break down room by room what we can do to be greener and cleaner. They run workshops in their community hub where you can learn to stitch and not ditch, to repair your bike, and also a huge amount about your carbon footprint. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to this wonderful Parisa, who's going to tell us all about Cleaner and Greener.
Hello everybody. My name is Parisa. I'm afraid these slides are going to be extremely slow. My name is Parisa Wright. I'm the founder and CEO of sustainable living charity Greener and Cleaner. 2018, I was at home on maternity leave with my baby, and I was watching the news every day and seeing 5-year-olds and 15-year-olds putting aside their childhood, putting aside their innocence and begging us adults to do something, because they simply weren't seeing the changes that need to be made at business level, at government level, anywhere. And so they were putting aside their childhood to do that. And I felt horrible about it. And I realized that actually I needed to be doing a lot more with my legal skills, with my problem solving skills. So when I went back to work, started getting back involved at ITV in this sort of area, but also set up Greener and Cleaner. And now we are a registered charity, and we've set up amazing pilot for community hubs for the UK. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the team of 70 amazing people who've done the same as I have, who've taken their personal passion and taken their professional skills and put them together to make this charity what it is. 20% is part-time staff. The rest of us are volunteers. We have amazing trustees, amazing SLT, and amazing volunteers. And there's Paul, our ambassador, who you'll hear from later today at one of our events. Now, so sorry. Our charity is Sustainable Living, and it's about educating, empowering, and normalizing sustainable living for everybody, not just certain groups and demographics. And why do we need that? To protect our children's future, to protect vulnerable groups, and to strengthen community resilience across the UK. In the UK, what are the challenges that we face? Why should we care about this? Is it not about polar bears? Well, I'm not going to patronize you. You guys know it's not about polar bears. You know it's about flooding and drought and heat and cold extremes and air pollution in the UK that we know is already affecting the health and the economy of thousands of people in this country, small businesses and individuals. Why I'm here is the intersection between those issues and the vulnerable communities we have all traditionally tried to protect through our philanthropy. So whether that is children, which is obviously where I started off this conversation, or the elderly, whether it's people from ethnically diverse groups. So for example, I have a Middle Eastern background, so I know that if you come from the Middle East, or if you come from an African background, you're much more vulnerable to obesity, diabetes, respiratory conditions, mental health conditions. And often, unfortunately, live in the areas of the worst air pollution, both in the UK and the US. And then obviously people dealing with poverty and health issues as well. These are groups all vulnerable to the health and the economic impacts of climate change and high carbon lifestyles. So what's the problem we're trying to solve? Well, I am not naive entirely. I know that with individual change, we cannot address climate change as quickly as we need to. We need to have government on board. We need to have businesses on board. We need changes to taxing structure, laws, infrastructure to make it easier for regular people to do what they need to do. But we have a voting system and a shareholder system that is holding that back. And so if we can get the British public on board, or at least 30% of them, actually caring about it, understanding how it's relevant to them, then we can make those changes. So we need the public on board, but at the moment they feel confused, overwhelmed, and excluded. So many of them see this as a white middle-class hobby, which it simply isn't. And so what are we trying to do? We're trying to find a way to connect with everybody in South East London at the moment to create a model of a community sustainability support hub, which is run by the local community for the local community. It's 360 on sustainability, so it doesn't matter if you're interested in biodiversity or air pollution or heating your home, you can come in and ask a question. It doesn't matter if you're worried about saving money or improving your health, you can come in and ask a question. It's in a mainstream setting, so it's not hidden away in a library or civic centre. It's normalising it, it's popularising it, and it's open 5 days a week, so people can rely on it. And then it's peer-to-peer, so it's from local people, it's trusted messengers who someone 2 roads down is using their bike or getting solar panels or saving money heating their home or whatever. That's what's going to affect change, not hearing from some faceless person you don't know. And then we're trying to address 3 of the major problems that transition town movements and climate hubs across the UK are facing. One, which is diversity and inclusion. So we are trying to work on serious community co-design to see what works and what doesn't work, for bringing them into the conversation and getting them actively engaged both in the hub and in pop-up activities out in the community. We're working with Imperial College London and also UCL with regards to academic research to make sure we have that academic rigor for our research as well around behavioural science and neuroscience. What are those gateways to sustainability again? Then we're looking at the issue on volunteers versus staffing. You can't do this on volunteers alone. It's not sustainable. You end up with people with burnout. You end up with something that is not mainstream and reliable. And then we're looking at diversification of funding streams, because when there's hundreds of these across the UK, they can't all be going to the lottery or the government, etc., etc. So we're looking at different ways of diversifying funding streams that any hub can do wherever they are in the UK. So our national goals are obviously to create a UK blueprint for these hubs. Last year, I quit my legal career of 20 years. Why? Because I want to make sure this blueprint is as good as it can be. We can do that co-design, we do those research, we partner with people, we make this amazing blueprint. And that blueprint will result in 50 plus hubs across the UK shopping centres, but also empowering hundreds of charities, councils, government civil servants and community groups across the UK with our learnings and also with the blueprint, because I don't care who uses it as long as they use the learnings however they want to, so we can hit our UK net zero goals. So Effie's journey, I'm not going to go into it, but basically she reflects a lot of people who come through the hub. They come in for one reason. It might be gardening, it might be crafting, it might be the energy they're using in their home, and they go away with so much more. They become a regular, they save thousands of pounds at home, they improve their well-being, but they also engage with their wider community. They start making changes in their schools, in their church groups. They start setting up community groups of their own. There are so many examples of this. Unfortunately, I can't go into them, but they're amazing. And she says it's changed her family's life, and I know it's changed mine. So what we've achieved so far, again, I'm not going to go into this because we don't have time. Ask questions, please. But basically, we've influenced thousands of people, and we have really impacted the lives of thousands of people as well. How can you help? Well, ultimately, unfortunately, it boils down to real life. So how you can help is with core costs. How you can help is with funding the work that we're trying to do, the work that so many of us are giving time and our skills to and our money to. Please get involved to fund the future that we all want, an inclusive, accessible future for everyone to get involved in sustainability. Other than funding, can you open doors? Can you bring your own skill sets? But ultimately funding. So what would your £10,000 do? Your £10,000 would allow us to track our impact much better than what we're doing at the moment. So it would bring in a CRM, but it would also deal with training for people on data collection and how to use a CRM, but also ensuring that when we are doing the research and the co-design, we are following the impact, not only of our events in the hub, but how we're working with different charities, how we're working with different individuals, what they want, what are their blockers, so we can actually address them and not be throwing money at things that don't work without addressing the fact there are issues holding people back. And increase funding, obviously, often these lead to 500 people joining for regular giving, which is about £10 a month, would be a £60,000 a year additional that would bring into us. So on lots of levels, it's an amazing thing. If we raise more than 10,000, we would hire somebody as a community outreach coordinator from those hard to reach groups to help us with our co-design with those hard to reach groups, because ultimately you have to have a paid role to expect certain people to get involved and give their time. And we really want to extend what we're doing on growing our networks and our research. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Parisa. That was a fantastic presentation and really fascinating how many things can be done. It can be done so simply and so quickly. We're open for questions now. Before I hand over, I just want to say that I left Guildford this morning and I noticed the flocks of empty retail properties in Guildford. And I'm just thinking, is it really cost effective to open these hubs now?
Yeah, absolutely. It means that whether it's a council or the shopping centre, they don't have to deal with the rates there. And we've got a way of sort of getting zero rates now, or we've managed to negotiate zero rates now. So it's a really good use of the space that brings the public into that space.
Yeah, fantastic.
Can you just repeat the questions? We don't have a roving mic.
Okay, so does anyone have a question that they want to ask? You put your hand up, please. Okay, over here.
Yes, hi, it's Liz Parry. I might have missed it in your presentation, but how are you currently getting to hard to reach people? Because it's great having a retail space, people who are interested can come in, but what sort of outreach is happening at the moment?
So Liz is asking, how is Parisa currently getting to hard to reach people and what outreach she has at the moment?
Okay, so when we set up in the community hub in the Glades, just by doing that, and admittedly we chose a unit that was near a McDonald's, a New Look, an H&M and an Entertainer. But just by doing that, we've already reached, there's a lot of elderly people going to the shopping centres for heat and for cool. There's a lot of mums with under 3-year-olds going there. There's a lot of adults with learning difficulties. That's just being in a shopping centre. But also because it's an aspirational setting, we've got all groups and demographics coming into the shopping centre from Lewisham Borough, from Bromley, from Greenwich, from Croydon. So all different groups are coming into this. But in addition to just being there, which has instantly increased the diversity of the people engaged with us, we're also collaborating with lots of community groups and charities across South East London who are representing those groups and doing community co-design days with those charities and then doing collaborative events with those groups so that they can find us. We can do stuff out in the food bank, out in the mosque, but also in the community hub. So it's a hub and spokes model with pop-ups out in the community.
Vaughan, hi there. That's you, Vaughan.
Two simple questions that are back to back. What wouldn't you be able to do if you don't get the money? What would you do if you got more than you're asking for?
Okay.
What's the range you can or cannot work?
Okay, so what wouldn't you do if you don't get the money? And what could you do if you got more than what you're asking for? Okay, great question.
Okay, so at the moment, we are trying to do this co-design and research to make sure we're not just saying, yes, we reach diverse communities, but we're actually doing it in an intelligent, impactful way. And we really need to measure that better than what we're doing at the moment. We are measuring it, but it will join the dots for us to have that technology in place. And then the community outreach lead will actually mean that we can actually pay somebody from those communities to get much more engaged with us and actually help deliver that. If we didn't raise it, then I will continue trying to raise it elsewhere, basically is what I spend most of my time doing these days. But I love partnerships and I love talking to people about it. But if we raised more than that, then there is so much more that we could do. We've done amazing projects going into schools, including special schools, helping set up sustainable fashion clubs that also gives employability skills. We have an amazing program working with underprivileged people from 17 to 24-year-olds that we want funded to help them with employability skills where they learn to volunteer in the hub, but also they get trained up on interview skills, sustainability in fashion and retail. There's so many different projects and I'd be really happy to talk to anybody, but there's a lot going on, and if we raised more, then we can do more amazing things to bring in more diverse groups and get them really engaged.
I think we have time for one final question. Is there one final question anyone has a burning desire to add? Sue, yeah?
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
I was just wondering, can you give some concrete examples of changes people have made in their lives as a result of coming to your groups?
So can you give concrete examples of changes people have made in their lives from coming to these groups?
Yes, absolutely. So Effie, we had on the screen, was one example of a lovely lady who came 6 years ago from Greece without speaking, second language is English. She is engaged with us and she has got her school now to put in a Ridan composter. So they now compost their food waste and they put in wildflowers. There's another lady who has come to our crocheting lessons and as a result has put on a pro bono crocheting and mending workshop weekly for her local school. And she's also given up her car and she says she's given up meat as well, which is amazing. There's lots of examples of people who've come in for one thing, but because we're 360, have been able to have conversations about other things and they've come in for something that's cute or sexy or trendy, but then they've got, or that's just close to their heart initially, but they've gone away with so much more than that, affecting their energy, affecting how they travel, affecting their meat, affecting how they actually find out who their councillor or their MP is, which quite frankly is one of the biggest things people can do, just use their voice.
Super, super. Parisa, thank you so much.